What is going on, you guys? This is the Cubone here, and of course I am wearing teal and black like a Duval cat because I am, of course, here to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ladies and gentlemen, we are finally at the first week of the regular season. It's Thursday as I'm recording this video. So the first game of the season is tonight, the Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams. So I wanted to give you guys a prediction video of how I think the Jaguars will perform in week 1 against the Washington Commanders. So a couple things I have written down. I think that the couple areas of concern for me for the Jaguars is the depth at the secondary. You know, if guys like Trey Herndon or Claybrooks are forced into the not necessarily the starting lineup, but if they are forced into like significant playing roles for this defense, I could see Washington taking advantage of said players and really getting big yardage in the passing game through just, you know, lining up their best players against those guys. Then we have the kicking situation. Jacksonville has gone through 6 different place kickers this offseason already, which is very much a concern for me. I forget who the current guy they have on the roster is right now. I forget his name. But hopefully he actually provides some stability at that position and can actually make some field goals, because let's not forget, the first 5 games of the last season in 2021, Jacksonville never made a field goal. They made field goal attempts, but they never actually made a field goal. And of course, the last thing I have written down as a concern for me for Jacksonville going into this game is the tight end position, which is very important because Doug Peterson really likes to use his tight ends in the passing game. I just didn't get to see a whole lot of Evan Ingram and Dan Arnold in the preseason. Maybe they were just hiding what they actually wanted to do with the tight ends. They didn't want to show how they were going to be utilized, but that is just something that I wrote down as something that I'm a bit concerned with. Also, the top 3 tight ends on the roster right now are expected to be free agents after this season, so they're going to have to figure out whether or not they're going to keep those guys, you know, for the long term, or whom they're going to replace at that position very shortly. In terms of strengths, I think the 2 areas I wanted to talk about is the running back position, because James Robinson will be playing in this game. I'm still kind of baffled by the fact that he is going to play, but it's going to be at a limited. It's going to be I imagine, very limited of how many touches he actually gets. I imagine Travis Etienne's going to take the bulk of the carries, with Snoop Conner sprinkled in a little bit here and there. As we all know, Doug Peterson likes to use multiple different running backs in his offense. And then the defensive front 7, I think, is going to be one of the best in the league, top 5. It'll be interesting to see how that front 7 goes up against Washington's offensive line. So that is something I will be very much looking forward to watching. Not necessarily on Sunday, but when I do like film analysis kind of stuff and really like breaking down the game on like Tuesday, when I watch the game again, that's something I'm going to be paying attention to. And going over to the Washington Commanders, they have a lot of really good offensive weapons they're going to be working with. Obviously, we know Terry McLaurin is one of the best receivers in the league, but they also have Curtis Samuel, I believe, is going to be healthy for this game, and Jahad Dotson, who was the first-round pick they drafted out of Penn State, is showing some promise from what I hear. So that'll be interesting to see him line up opposite of Terry McLaurin. Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic are a nice 1-2 punch at the running back position. McKissic is more of a receiving back, not necessarily a guy that's going to run in between the tackles, but Antonio Gibson Didn't run for 1,000 yards last year, so that is nothing to ignore. And I believe from what I hear, Logan Thomas is trying to play this game, the tight end who they had for the last couple of years now. If he does play, that'll be a big get for the Washington Commanders. That'll be a huge plus for them. And of course, I can't also ignore the fact that they also have some really good guys at the defensive line. They won't have Chase Young, unfortunately, but they still have guys like Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and who's the other one? Montez Sweat. So they still have a good group at that defensive line. So Jacksonville is going to have their hands full dealing with those guys. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, in terms of something that I'm not super big fan of for Washington, is their quarterback situation. So they currently have Carson Wentz as their starting quarterback. I used to be a really big fan of Carson Wentz. Over time, though, injuries and just poor play on the field at times really just deteriorated my confidence in him. And I'm not necessarily saying that, Carson Wentz is like a bum, because he's not a bum. He's obviously, there's a reason why Washington went out and traded for him. He has talent. He can still play in this league, but I'm concerned that he's not necessarily the long-term answer, that he's just sort of a stopgap. He's the quarterback for now, but let me actually try this. The last thing I wanted to talk about is for the Washington Commanders. No, let me try one. And last but not least, the last thing I want to talk about with the Washington Commanders, is Carson Wentz, the quarterback for the Commanders. Former quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts last year, and the previous quarterback with Doug Peterson in Philadelphia. So obviously there's a connection between those two. I imagine Carson Wentz really wants to win this game super badly because of that. I am not the biggest fan of Carson Wentz anymore. I used to be a big fan of Carson Wentz. But the problem is that injuries and just poor play on the field sometimes really just deteriorated my confidence in him. And even though I don't think he's really that good anymore, I will say this. If Washington's offensive line does protect him in the passing game, if he can get the ball out real quick, doesn't take too many hits, he's going to at least give Washington a chance in this game. And at the very least, he is an upgrade over Taylor Heinicke. I can't ignore that. I love Taylor Heinicke, St. Louis Battlehawks guy over here from the XFL. Even though technically he never played, he was on the roster. But he's not an NFL starter. He's a backup. So I'm not gonna over criticize their decision to get Carson Wentz. You kind of were played with the hand that was kind of dealt to you. So at the very least, with Carson Wentz, he does have a strong arm, so he can push the ball down the field. That should be really good for guys like Terry McLaurin, who's a really good deep threat. I think, at the very least, Carson Wentz, you're going to get good plays with him, and you're going to get bad plays from him. And in order for the Jaguars to get those bad plays out of him, like they did in Week 18 when he was with the Colts, you got to take away the run game, and you got to get pressure on Carson Wentz. That's going to be Washington's job this week, is to make sure that does not happen to him. But we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. In terms of the final score I have for this game, I have a score of 28-24 with Jacksonville winning this game. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. I care about that too.